Hope your day is going well. Just wanted to record a video for you explaining kind of my goals for writing the examples for chapter 2. So when you get to a new chapter in math, one of the first things you want to do is to try to read the chapter, right? And these books that we're using for math are going to be very easy to read. So for example, this one is on points and lines. So we start often to get an idea of the behavior of an equation. We'll make a picture that represents the solutions to the equations, right? So we read and read. Then when we get to any bold terms, we always pay attention. In this case, a graph is simply a picture of the solutions to an equation. Great, okay. Now, example 1, so it says, give the coordinates of each point. So we look at A and we write the coordinates for A, 1, 4. B, the coordinates for B are, you go left 5 and up 3. So that's -5, 3. Anything on the left of the center is called, let me actually put it here. Anything on the left of this is called this is the origin where I put the dot. Everything on the left of that is negative, and everything on the bottom of it is negative. The straight line up down is called the y line, and the line from left to right is called the x axis. So notice the solution to this problem is right here. So in your notebooks, you should have a sketch of the graph here. You just draw the lines, put A, B, and C, and then write down A, B, and C. So that's example 1. Great. Now in your notes, so when I say write the examples, what I mean by that is, actually 1 second here. What I mean by that, why isn't it erasing? Sorry. Okay. What I mean by that is that you actually, move on to the next example, for example, here, example 2. And you literally look at the example and see if you can understand what they're saying. So A is 3, 2. B is -2, 1. C, which will come down later. Let's go down here. For some reason, it's not letting me scroll. I think I know why. Okay, so we're going to erase this annotation. And then we're going to move down. Okay, then we look at example 2. Example 2 has to do with more sets of points. The goal of example 2 is to show you how to identify the points. So in your notebooks, if I was in your shoes, what I would do is I'll just label this last graph here that says A, B, C, D, E, F, and be able to answer what is A, and then look at the example and write that answer down. What is B? So A, in this case, you go over 3 and up 2, so that's 3, 2. B is negative, right? -2, 1. So basically write down A, B, C, D, E, F, and that's all you're doing for example 2. Example 3. In example 3, instead of writing those points with parentheses like 1, 4, you now put them into a table. So it's the same idea, but we use a table. So example 3 says graph y is equal to 2x minus 3. What they're saying in this graph is every time you see x, plug in -1. Every time you see 0, plug in that 0. Every time you see 1, plug it in there. So then it becomes y is equal to, the first case, 2 times -1, which is -2, minus 3. And so when you do that, so y is equal to 2 into -1 minus 3. What is 2 times -1? -2, and then -3, and the answer is -5. So whenever you see 1, your y is -5. Now they want you to plug in 0 every time you see x in this equation. So this is like knowing the speed to a certain destination and the time. So if I say, what is the distance if the speed is 70 miles per hour and the time is 1 hour? You know the distance is 70 miles, right? So it's the same idea of plugging in a value. That's all we're doing. We're just plugging it into y is equal to 2x minus 3. This was why we learned 1.5 earlier on, because we wanted you to be comfortable with letters representing something in math. So you're using these letters to represent something. In this case, that something is the x over here. That's the same thing going on in this equation, by the way. If they give you x is -3, then you plug in -3. Now, here's what I want you to do. Even if you don't understand what they're doing, that's fine. We're actually going to be discussing this more on Monday. So what you want to do is just go ahead and write down example 3. Write down the question, write down the graph they've given you here, fill it in another table, and then plot it on a graph like this. So you're going to need some graph paper, or for now, you can just sketch. Just writing out the examples is going to be important, because after you learn the concept, I want you to have a lot of examples waiting for you that you can go back to refer to. So that's what your exercise is. It's just write out the examples. Like, you don't even have to try the practice problems. You're just writing the examples. I'll tell you something I thought about today. In the history of my math and science education, I find it interesting that there's one man that played the biggest role in my life, in all my education. I had wonderful teachers, but this particular individual, he never gave us notes while we were in class. Instead, he gave us notes where we would just copy the examples when we were at home. But when we were in class, he would then explain everything. I find it interesting that of all the teachers I had, which I had exceptional teachers all my life, and I thank God for them, this particular one, till today, we still talk because of the impact he had on me. I think that you have a skill here you're going to learn, which is when you're on your own learning, if you don't know what to do, just copy the examples. When you come into class, ask all the questions. Well, I call it class, but you know what I mean. When you come to the study session and discussion we have on Mondays, that's what we'll talk about. So don't worry about not understanding something at first, but always keep moving forward by copying the examples. Just copying the examples. And so the examples we're focused on right now are 2.1, and hopefully we'll get to 2.2 next week. There's no rush. This topic is the most important topic in most of algebra. This topic, graphing. Without this topic, we pretty much can do like 50% of algebra. So this topic comes from René Descartes. René Descartes, the French mathematician who lived from 1596 to 1650. He was the tutor to the Queen of Sweden, by the way. He died of pneumonia at a younger age, I would say, than, he could have lived longer possibly if he didn't have to tutor them at 5 a.m. in the morning. But anyways, that is part of what he did. He used to tutor at like 5 a.m. in the morning. He influenced people like Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, because of his work on coming up with Cartesian planes, they're called. Okay, there's a lot on this page. Let me clean this off. So where do we go from here? Writing out the examples is where we go from here. We write down example 1, example 2, example 3, and guess what? We might even do example 4. How cool is that? Just write down the examples, literally copy them into your notebooks, because I also want to build your muscles. These are your free throws. I need to build your muscles so that when we start getting into complex equations, you're not bogged down by writing. I want you to write and show your work neatly. And think about this. If the Lord tarries and 50 years from now, somebody was to find your notebook, will they be able to make sense of your notes? Always remember that. If my notebooks were excavated, will people be able to make sense of my notes? That's the standard you want. So this is how we graph and work with points and lines. Take care. Have a blessed day. We'll see you guys later.